Good afternoon. The UK's last evacuation flight purely for civilians has left the Afghan capital, Kabul. The head of the armed forces, General Sir Nick Carter, said it is heartbreaking that British troops have not been able to rescue everybody. He said hundreds of eligible people have been left behind. Well, the American-led airlift of those trying to escape Taliban rule is due to end on Tuesday, as our diplomatic correspondent Caroline Hawley reports.
The race to finish an unprecedented rescue mission is almost done. The Pentagon says more than 110,000 people have been airlifted out of the country in the past 2 weeks by US forces and its allies. Among the planes leaving Kabul airport today, the last British evacuation flight for civilians.
We've done an extraordinary job to evacuate as many as we have, but I'm afraid it's absolutely heartbreaking that we can't bring everybody out. And I think that point's been made very strongly, certainly by the Defence Secretary and others over the last 10 days or so. Personally, I've probably had over 100 messages from different Afghans who I know in my long association with the country. And many of those friends of mine won't make it out. And for me, not a day passes without me having a bit of a tear in my eye about all of that.
Day after day, British personnel have been processing Afghans desperate to escape. Altogether, nearly 15,000 people have been brought out by the RAF, British nationals and Afghans who'd worked with the UK along with their families. But hundreds have not been able to reach the airport, Afghans whose lives are now at grave risk.
It's time to close this phase of the operation now, but we haven't forgotten the people who still need to leave. We'll continue to do everything we can to help them. Nor have we forgotten the brave, decent people of Afghanistan. They deserve to live in peace and security.
At RAF Brize Norton this morning, British personnel arriving back on UK soil. By the end of the weekend, we're told, the last military flight will have left Kabul. The last soldiers and diplomats will be out. Over the past 20 years, more than 100,000 British troops served in Afghanistan. 456 British lives were lost. The mission began by ousting the Taliban from power. It ends in a rush to get home, on a timetable dictated by the militants. Caroline Hawley, BBC News.
Well, those who were eligible to leave but have been left behind must now decide whether to stay in Afghanistan and live under Taliban rule or try to find other ways of fleeing the country. Our correspondent Sikandar Kamani reports from Kabul.
Outside Kabul airport, warning shots ring out. Since Thursday's awful suicide bombing by the local branch of the Islamic State group, the crowds here have grown smaller, but some still remain. Tens of thousands have been evacuated, these Afghans escorted by the Taliban. Others, however, are being left behind. Like this pizza shop owner from Essex. He'd travelled to Kabul to help try and take his Afghan national wife and young children home.
I got a receipt email yesterday and they said stay away from the airport and stay in safe place. From today I was keep calling and sending email, even nobody answered.
Elsewhere in Kabul, the city remains unusually quiet. The IS attack has left many fearing there could be further bloodshed. The US today said it killed 2 key IS operatives in a drone strike in the east of the country. Everyday life in Kabul is growing increasingly difficult, with banks closed for nearly 2 weeks now. This is one of a handful of cash machines still working.
We're not begging Aziz Bank staff to give us money. This is our own money to get it, but we have family, we have children. If we don't have money, how should we prepare bread for my family?
When I see what has become of the country, I feel it's impossible to live here. Everything is becoming more expensive. I feel like I'm suffocating.
The Taliban swept into Kabul unexpectedly easily, but governing this city and the rest of the country is likely to be a far bigger challenge. The group says it will take time for life to stabilise. One of the few businesses not complaining, this Taliban member selling flags. Others are still anxiously waiting to see what life under their rule will look like. Sikandar Kamani, BBC News, Kabul.
The latest coronavirus figures from the government show there were 32,406 new infections recorded in the latest 24-hour period, which means on average there were 34,226 new cases per day in the last week. 133 deaths were recorded in the last 24 hours, with an average of 112 deaths a day in the last week. On vaccinations, 88.2% of adults in the UK have now had their first jab and 78.2% have had both doses. Well, with large crowds expected to flock to beaches and festivals over the bank holiday weekend, there are concerns about rising COVID infection rates. Public health officials in some areas are calling on holidaymakers to take lateral flow tests before travelling. Philip Norton reports now from Scarborough.
Ice creams and sandcastles, with a strong message of hands, face, space and take a test. The temperature was well into the 20s in Scarborough today, the first bank holiday weekend in England since coronavirus restrictions were lifted.
Got one vaccination, you're doubled, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm double vaccinated as well, yeah.
We'll take all the precautions that we can, and we know that sun's good for everybody, so it's nice to be out and about. Yeah.
Like many areas, North Yorkshire Council has asked visitors to take a lateral flow test before coming to resorts, and if they found they were busy, to consider going elsewhere. But in the southwest of England, that message has been taken even further. Infection rates in Devon and Cornwall have spiked, and with a number of festivals taking place and a busy holiday season, extra government support and testing is being provided from Monday. Elsewhere, thousands of music fans are enjoying the Reading and Leeds festivals, where there's also a chance to grab a jab.
We want to take every opportunity to get as many people vaccinated as possible. Especially at the moment, we're targeting the younger age group, and where better than to come to a place like this where the majority of the population is under 20, under 30.
Festival fun and busy beaches. Health officials are hoping the stay safe message has been taken on board. Philip Norton, BBC News, Scarborough.
It's been the most successful day of the Games so far for Great Britain at the Paralympics in Tokyo. The team have won 7 gold medals, including a dramatic double for a golden couple in the velodrome. Andy Swiss's report now contains some flashing images.
Meet British sport's new golden couple, Neil and Laura Fackie, husband and wife, and gold medalists within 20 minutes of each other. First, Neil and tandem pilot Matt Rotherham took the time trial in a new world record, before Laura and her pilot Corrie Hall produced a display of pursuit perfection.
What a story, what a ride!
A case of same surname, same outcome. For the couple, who are both visually impaired, a remarkable feat.
She told me she was crying, and I had to admit that I was too. But yeah, I mean, we sort of planned for this, but you never really expect it all comes together like that.
And the gold rush continued. Jacco Van Gas, Jodie Cundy and Kadina Cox in the mixed team sprint. They were trailing China, but somehow Cundy turned it round.
Can he claw it back? Oh, yes he can! Oh, it's unbelievable!
Well, it's been some games for Britain's track cyclists. They've won 6 gold medals in total. And tonight, over at the Athletic Stadium, others were following their example. In the 100 metres, a new star was born, 21-year-old Thomas Young winning gold on his Paralympic debut. There was also gold in the women's 100, Sophie Hahn once again showing her brilliance on the biggest stage. In the pool, there was gold for the mixed relay team and another for Maisie Summers-Newton, just 19, but already a double Paralympic champion. But the celebration of the day belonged to Will Bailey, the former Strictly competitor showing some less than fancy footwork. But he's into the table tennis final. Just imagine what he'll do if he wins it. Andy Swiss, BBC News, Tokyo.
England's cricketers have pulled off a stunning victory in the third test against India. They took 8 wickets this morning to win by an innings and 76 runs and level the series 1-1. Here's Alan Wilde.
In Leeds, they came ready for a carnival. What they got, in fact, was a procession. History tells us to expect the unexpected at Headingley, England here, springing the surprises. Chiteshwar Pujara didn't seem to see that coming. Holly Robinson and England up and running. Pujara gone for 91, but the big prize was that of Virat Kohli. He'd passed 50, but couldn't get past the waiting hands of Joe Root. Robinson wreaking havoc, so too England's more established names. This was Jimmy Anderson undoing Ajinkya Rahane. Moeen Ali offering a quick break from the quick bowling, no less deadly. But the morning belonged to Robinson. This saw off Ishant Sharma, his 5th wicket. Craig Overton delivering the knockout blows. Headingley had expected a day of drama. What it got was a morning masterclass. Adam Wilde, BBC News.
And that's it from me. We're back at 10 past 10 this evening. Now on BBC One, it's time for the news where you are. Goodbye.